It is a new day in this untouched landscape. Mashatu is a land of legends and vanished kingdoms. Without fences or boundaries. This is the land of the giants. Even this early in the day, the sun beats down with ferocious intensity. A herd of elephants move along a rocky ridge, browsing as they go. They will eat anything, from grass and leaves to fruit and bark. The herd will spend over half of each day foraging for food. An adult elephant will eat up to 440 pounds of vegetation a day. The heat intensifies as it gets closer to midday. The elephants will soon move off to find respite from the sun's rays. Stands of trees, sparsely dotted along the landscape, provide the only shelter for animals in the sweltering heat. These magnificent trees can grow to gigantic proportions, dwarfing even a mighty herd of elephants. 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗁𝗏, the matriarch of this herd, is responsible for their survival. Each day, she faces the challenge of finding food and water for her family in the searing heat and dry conditions. At midday, temperatures can soar to a staggering 102 degrees Fahrenheit. For creatures as large as the African elephant, such high temperatures can be debilitating. But they are capable of regulating their own body temperatures to an extent. By flapping their massive ears, they create cooling currents, and heat is released from the blood flowing through the blood vessels lining the fine skin of their ears. But it is winter in Mashatu, a time of harsh contrasts. Temperatures soar during the day, but are bitterly cold at night. The land is dry and barren. To survive, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 must push her family to their limits, traveling many miles a day to find shade, food, and water. They move steadily along the scorching savanna. Staying in one place would quickly deplete the food supply. Yet keeping close to the water would put the little ones directly in the path of predators. 𝗪𝗡 follows ancient paths through the acacia woodlands. She's using knowledge passed down over generations of elephants to find her way to water. At this time of the year, all the elephants can do is wait out the dry season. During the heat of the day, they will stick to feeding on whatever vegetation they can find in the bush, and will only forage out of the protective shade when the temperatures start dropping. But to find enough water to sustain them each day means that they can never stop moving. Two great African rivers, the 𝗪𝗂𝗄 and the 𝗪𝗪𝗂𝗄, border the Mashatu Reserve. Once upon a time, great herds of elephants roamed the land between their banks. But man, in his relentless and brutal pursuit for ivory, nearly wiped out these gentle giants. Only a few elephant families managed to escape, fleeing to safety. For one entire generation, Mashatu stood empty. But today, Mashatu is no longer a barren landscape, haunted by memories of terror and death. It is now a wildlife sanctuary, stretching over 110,000 acres of African bush. Animals roam freely and do not need to fear hunters. The elephants have returned home and now represent a living legacy. They belong to the largest thriving population of elephants on privately owned land in Africa. Herds of up to 100 elephants now roam freely through Mashatu. But although the herds no longer need to fear the threat of slaughter for their tusks, they face a more constant danger. Starvation and dehydration could decimate their numbers more efficiently than any hunter and his rifle. Today, the land of Mashatu provides a refuge for great herds of elephants from the ivory hunters of the past. But it is a natural element that threatens their survival. One lingering dry and hot season could spell disaster for an entire population, unless they can find a reliable source of food and water. Mashatu is at the peak of its dry season. The earth is almost completely devoid of ground cover, and the dust swirls in the hot winds that dry out the remaining bush even more. Conditions are desperate for Mashatu's herbivores. Every herd is led by a trusted matriarch. 𝗏𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀, the matriarch of this herd, is responsible for guiding her family to traditional food and water sources along the banks of the rivers that run through Mashatu. She has learned these secret locations and the ways of the bush from her own mother. Today, though, it is too hot to do anything other than let her herd slowly meander along towards the river. Browsing randomly here and there as she coaxes them onward. Elephant herds are made up of mostly female family members of varying ages. Each member is valuable to the survival of the herd. In this group, the smallest babies stay as close to their mothers as possible, while 𝗏𝗵𝗀𝗀's sisters, cousins, daughters, and nieces help to shepherd and protect the older offspring. The term allo mother is given to female elephants who do not have calves of their own. They are tasked with babysitting the youngest calves in the herd, giving the mothers time to feed so that they can provide their calves with nutritious milk. One of these females, like Juma, will become the next matriarch. Her training is an accumulation of experiences comprised from a lifetime spent under the supervision of 𝗏𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀. Jabu The herd's juvenile male is still with the herd. Male elephants leave the herd when they are teenagers, lingering on the outskirts of the herd for months until they wander off on their own or join small bachelor herds. Occasionally, a teenager will attach himself to a more senior, single male mentor. But the time is nearing for 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗀𝗀. The life of bachelorhood is beginning to appeal to him. And although he's not quite sure if he's ready to leave the herd yet, his teenage hormones are starting to influence his behavior and bring out his rebellious side. Very young family members, like Neo, are particularly vulnerable at this stage of their lives. The herd will go to great lengths to care for and protect their young, as elephant calves take much longer to develop their natural instincts than other young animals do. During the heat of midday, Neo and the other babies hide beneath their mothers or in the middle of the herd, seeking refuge in the shade cast by the larger elephants. But an elephant's eternal thirst is quenched only by enormous volumes of water. This is the driving force which prompts 𝗵𝗀𝗃 to push her family onwards. If they do not reach sufficient vegetation and a reliable water source soon, the condition of the youngest members of the herd will deteriorate very quickly in the searing heat of the African sun. The day draws on and is harsh, dry, dusty, and hot. The rainy season hasn't started yet here in Mashatu. And although there are thickets that look dense and even green in parts, the blistering sun has leached all the nutrients out of the vegetation, forcing the elephants to dig below ground for roots to satisfy their enormous hunger and nutritional needs. An elephant's foot is almost completely round, with 3 nails on each hind foot and 4 on each front foot. They use these nails on their front feet to dig into the earth and loosen the soil. They can then use their trunks to sift through the dirt and find the tasty roots. The trunk is an elephant's most important and versatile appendage. With over 40,000 muscles, it is highly sensitive, yet immensely powerful. An elephant is equally as capable of delicately plucking a single leaf as it is at exerting brute force to tear a branch off a tree. For a lactating female with a young calf, it is vital that she maintains a healthy, nutritious diet. Although they are tiny, young calves like Neo can drink up to 3 gallons of breast milk a day, and they are reliant on this nutrition until the age of around 2 years. Calves suckle with their mouths. Their trunks have too little muscle tone at such a young age to be able to use it as the older elephants do. It takes several months for a calf to learn to control the use of its trunk. In doing so, it will discover that the appendage plays a major role in many social interactions, including greeting, caressing, and interactions between mother and calf. Grass and tender plants are the first solids a calf will start eating as it is weaned from its mother. Effective trunk manipulation takes time to develop. But as they generally tend to eat all day, elephants get very good at it. Dexterously using their trunks, these highly intelligent pachyderms vary their diet with grass, branches, and leaves. Just like humans, each elephant has their own eating habits. Some, like 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗀𝗀, are very picky eaters. She shakes off as much of the dust and dirt as she can before putting the grass in her mouth. But even the promise of a tasty morsel can't distract the elephants from the searing heat, and members of the herd seek out any shady retreats. Even Neo indulges in a quick, cool dust bath. The sun beats down relentlessly, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 pushes the herd onwards. On the other side of the dolerite outcrops, another smaller family also searches for whatever sustenance they can find. But digging here is hard work, and the warthogs nibble on the dry grass tufts instead. Warthogs are robust and can go without water for periods as long as a few months if necessary. They can derive all the moisture they need from any roots they dig up or grass shoots that they can find. In the middle of winter, foraging is a time-consuming task. Nutritional food is hard to come by. For the other animals in Mashatu, life is just as harsh. Tempers rage along with the soaring temperatures, as the competition for resources reach an annual high. In the distance, a pair of male giraffes engage in a mild contest of dominance. Thrusting their heads and intertwining their long necks in this way is commonly known as necking. The weaker male often surrenders easily, and the battles thus seldomly result in serious injury. The elephants need to drink at least 30 gallons of water every day if they can. Although there are some permanent water sources in Mashatu all year round, the severe shortage of nutritional vegetation means the elephants must travel many miles between the water holes and rivers, looking for food. In this heat, even the shortest distance can seem like an impossibly long way to the smaller members of the herd. 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 leads the herd in the direction of the 𝗥𝗲𝗃 River, following a route that hundreds of elephants before her have trekked in search of water. But the river is a fickle friend to the elephants. They never know if it will be running or not. Its flow is dependent upon the rains and only runs for a few days a year. Despite this, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 picks up the scent of water and urges the herd onward. She sets a steady pace in the direction of the river, and the herd picks up on her sense of urgency. They know that she will use her knowledge and skills to the best of her ability to lead them to water. But as they reach the trees that line the banks of the river, the sight that greets the family is not what they were expecting. A depressing sight of a dry riverbed. The soil in this riverbed is highly permeable and is unable to retain water for long. Any pools that may have remained after the last rains have long since drained away. It is a devastating turn of events for the younger members of the herd. Neo is exhausted. The baby simply can't bear the heat and attempts an afternoon nap. Some of the herd samples what little vegetation they can find on the dry riverbanks. But the heat is too much for the rest of the herd. They gather in the shade and rest as 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 contemplates her next move. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗀𝗱 crunches his way through the dry bush, chewing the bark off what seems to be nothing but a dead branch as he tries to get to the softer parts inside. As his molars work their way through the branch, he lets his trunk wander down to the ground and then up again, carefully selecting his next helping. An elephant's trunk functions as a hand and fingers, as well as a nose. 𝗥𝗏𝗹𝘁𝗏 is touching and smelling each branch as his trunk moves over it. Like humans, elephants are right or left tusked. The favored tusk is used more regularly as a tool. 𝗥𝗏𝗹𝘁𝗏 uses his left tusk to break off the branch he has selected. Although all elephants are capable of being very destructive, it seems to be mostly a male occupation to tear branches off trees or push them over. When nutritional levels of the food supply are at their lowest, elephants will break off large sticks of certain trees whose protein levels can be 30% higher in the dry season than even the grazing grasses are in the height of the rainy season. Elephants have an uncanny knowledge, passed down over the millennia, of which trees provide the best nutrition and at which times of the year. But these giants cannot exist on plant nutrients alone. Unlike the warthogs, they cannot derive what moisture they need from this vegetation alone. And they must reach the water soon to replenish the strength sapped from their bodies during the heat of the day. Having a very thick, tough hide means that an elephant finds it very difficult to release heat through its skin. But wallowing and indulging in mud baths protects an elephant's skin from burning and aids in regulating its body temperature to a certain extent. With sounds sometimes too low for humans to hear, 𝗏𝗏𝗀 pushes her family further. Elephants communicate with infrasound, using approximately 15 different types of rumbles, which can travel over several kilometers, many of them inaudible to humans. But it is another of 𝗏𝗏𝗀's senses that is alerted now. She changes direction and leads the herd south, following the sweet scent of water. Water is just over the horizon. But the youngest of the herd are finding the journey difficult, and 𝗏𝗏𝗀 briefly allows Neo to nurse. Despite her desire to get to water as quickly as possible, 𝗏𝗏𝗀 lets the herd stop and take advantage of the good vegetation along the way. One member of the herd cannot resist the smell of water and is desperate to get there as quickly as possible. But although they are all desperate to drink, 𝗏𝗏𝗀 cannot allow a stampede to the water's edge, in which smaller family members could get trampled. As the sun is getting lower in the sky, the herd makes a final descent into the marshland. Underneath the cool tree canopies lie refreshing pools, enough to quench the thirst of the entire herd. Their relief is obvious as they suck up gallons of fresh water, in turn pumping it into their open mouths. The water is gloriously chilled, and Neo indulges in splashing around in the luxurious coolness of the mud and water. Despite the danger of encountering predators coming to drink, 𝗏𝗏𝗀 allows the herd to remain close to the water for the night. They need the rest, and in the morning, they can feed on the lush grasses nearby to replenish their energy. For a moment, in their otherwise continuous fight for survival, these gentle giants have been able to relax. But their journey is a never-ending one. They have watered and fed sufficiently for one day, and 𝗏𝗏𝗀, inaudibly, signals the herd, and as one, they start moving again. But they are not the only herd who has chosen to travel north along the ancient trail today. 𝗏𝗏𝗀 and her family know these elephants well. They are distant relations, and every now and then they meet up along the ancient pathways. They will now continue their journey together, making use of their combined knowledge to find food and another source of water. This is how these elephants survive in the wilderness of Mashatu, the land of the giants.